and welcome. You're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. Ukraine's stock market is still young and is still in its period of formation, but is already attracting investors from around the world. Yet, there is still room for improvement. To talk about this in detail, we're joined in the studio today by Mindaugas Bakas. He is the head of Ukraine's National Depositary. Hello, and thank you for coming.
Morning.
So, in general, how does Ukraine's stock market look right now, let's say comparing to those in the US or in Europe?
Well, I mean, if you compare the activity or number of trades or the volume, it's incomparable, unfortunately. It's still incomparable.
It's still young, of course, yes.
Well, I mean, what's young for the capital market? I think 20-something years is quite enough to be developed to quite big, substantial market, given the Ukrainian potential as a big country, agricultural country, numerous interesting companies. But for still reasons unknown for me, I'm just 1.5 years here in Ukraine, this market is still in first stages of development. So unfortunately, it's still a lot of work to be done.
The dynamic of this development, is it positive?
During the recent years, I think yes. I think there is a clear understanding where we want to go as a country, as a capital market, both on exchange side and the post trade. So we selected European direction as a benchmark. So as I understand, our regulator, that is Securities Commission in Ukraine, is taking mark in that direction, and we, as a post-trade, as a depository, are also looking into European market practices to harmonize with them.
Which European practices? Well,
Europe, as such, is consolidating, integrating among the countries. Recently, there is a big project that was undergoing, that is targeted securities, that allows cross-border securities movement without any limitations. So we are looking into European as a whole market practice. There are European regulations that are like CSDR that are have the status of the law in all the countries.
The IT platform we currently have in Ukraine for the stock exchange market, is it enough to make it work as effective as in Europe?
To my knowledge, exchanges have to improve their IT systems, as well as depository has to. Therefore,
how can that be done?
By acquisition of new
What needs to be done?
Acquisition of new systems. That is expensive investment, but it has to be done.
And the money should be allocated from Ukraine's budget?
I can't say for exchanges, but for the CSD, we are using shareholders' money for that.
So the shareholders' money?
Yes.
Okay. But how many years will it take approximately to acquaint a new IT platform?
Well, for depository, we started the process of collecting proposals from international developers.
Already?
Yes, we have started that in July this year. And as we speak, we are in the final stages of selecting the vendor. Tomorrow we have a council meeting to go through the results, and I hope in December we will sign contract. Timeline for implementation is preliminary 1.5 years. So
it's not that long.
Yes, it's ambitious, but we're trying to do as much as we can to launch it as early as possible, because we think that we, as a country, are late in many areas. So at least in the post-trade, we want to do it right.
Well, there is a delay, but nevertheless, as far as I know, there are 4 stock exchange markets operating currently in Ukraine right now. Is there a possibility that all those markets could be obtained into one system that could be integrated in the international financial system?
Well, of course, consolidation is necessary so that it will be easier to integrate into other markets. Consolidation is necessary for the local investors so that liquidity would not be split as it is right now among those 4 markets.
And what about international investors?
Well, the same goes for them. It's easier to understand if you look just one exchange, one data source. Right?
Exactly.
So, that's a no-brainer, so to say. For, again, whatever reasons, there were 10 exchanges on the market. So I think regulators doing the right thing, increasing requirements and thus forcing to consolidate. And I believe that by the end of that process, we should have one exchange as well as one depository. Right now, we have National Depository for corporate instruments, and we have National Bank for government debt instruments. So, at least in this area, there is a political will to consolidate that, which is set in the Ukraine 2020
roadmap?
Roadmap, exactly.
Do you think that if all of that is implemented, the flow of international investments in Ukraine will grow?
Well,
and how much will it grow?
Technology is just one part. Legal environment is also needs improvement. Things like nominee concept and liberalization of foreign currency movement. These two things are limiting the number of investors that may come into the market.
And what about the flow of securities? Because if I'm not mistaken, the rules that are regulating the flow of securities on Ukraine's exchange market is rather complicated, and that keeps international investors out of Ukraine's stock market. How can that be changed to change the situation for the better?
We ourselves, as a depository, initiated the changes to the law, the project, as we call it, nominee concept, that allows higher protection of the investors' property, foreign investors' property. Also, as we speak, regulator is working on new law on depository system, which also allows to improve quality of depository environment. So these two things is something that foreign investors are very much looking into.
So there is a possibility that there are investors out there who are just waiting for those two laws to be implemented to come to Ukraine and just start developing projects in here.
Yes.
Speaking about local investments, what should Ukrainian people invest in?
Well, as I told you earlier, I think first of all, they have to invest into themselves. Education and health is important for a country, and that gives a boost to development of the country as a whole. Finance is complicated.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this informative conversation, and thank you so much for finding time and coming here.
Thank you.
That was Mindaugas Bakas. He is the head of Ukraine's National Depository. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.